Hi everybody, my name is Melissa and welcome to my channel. The beginning of a new year means looking back at the decisions that you made, the books that you read, what was good, what was bad, all the in between. Today I'm going to be talking about best books that I read in 2024. Happy New Year everyone. I'm very excited to kind of go back over the books that I did read that I loved and really enjoyed, because I feel like I just haven't really been putting out a lot of content discussing books that I really enjoyed. Let's get started. The very first group of books, or books that I will be talking about, are the True Beauty. These are the hardcover editions, and if you've ever seen the K-drama, it is based on this webtoon, and I do have the fourth book. I haven't read it yet. I loved this, and I'm gonna put most of them down because they're very heavy. I really enjoyed reading this book series because I loved the K-drama so much. I actually ended up like watching the K-drama as it was coming out, so oh my gosh, so good. If you haven't ever heard of this or read this, it's about a girl who is bullied at her old school about her looks. She ends up trying to confess to the guy that she likes and is basically made fun of. She ends up moving to a new school, and there she realizes, hey, I can reform my image and I can turn myself beautiful with makeup. She ends up going to the new school with her new face, meets some guys, and it's just so cute. I love how the show followed the same storyline as this to a T. The illustrations are just so much fun as well, and like the full color in here, love it so much. So I really have been enjoying these compared to manga lately, just because I do love a good color. I read the first three. I have the fourth one. It's sadly not in hardback, but love them. Like, I'm not really planning on going in any order, but I did want to mention this one first, which is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Now, if you saw maybe one of my other videos that I did put out, I don't even remember which one because there was probably like 2 this year, but I did talk about Powerless and the fact that it kickstarted my love of reading. I flew through this book, but at the same time I did take a while with it for what it was. And this is about a girl who is powerless in a world where most people have powers. If you do not have powers, you end up getting rid of, because this society values power and like all of that above all else. This girl ends up saving the life of the would-be king or prince, and she ends up getting sent to this competition where she goes up a bunch of other people who have powers while she doesn't, so she has to think with her brains and has to figure all this out. This isn't a new premise. It's definitely the games and trials aspect, but because I haven't like read something that really captivated my attention as much as this one did, and like I just loved it. So, you know, it is a YA story. I do have another book on here that is very similar in storyline-ish, I guess, but I did put this one on here because of the kickstart into the reading that this one got me on. Also, I forgot to mention that I read a total of 114 books this past year, and I really started reading back in May. So like I finally got back in my reading game. Another YA book that I want to talk about is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. Now, this is a book that I read on Kindle Unlimited, but I wanted a physical copy for myself because I really wanted to go back and annotate this book. And plus, look at this like floppy paperback. This is great. I know a lot of people have probably either already read this or heard about it, and it is about a young girl who has a very, very bad home life, and she's bullied at school as well. Something happens where she ends up needing to get transferred to a new school. I think it's a private school if I'm not mistaken, and this takes place in Europe. Is it Scotland, Ireland? I'm not sure. I can't remember. I read this quite a while ago, but she ends up getting like hit in the head by this rugby player, and he ends up saving her. And this book really just focuses on like a found family aspect, growing up, finding people who have different life experiences than you do, learning from them, and all of these things. I loved this book, and I am like halfway through the second. I just like stopped because I was like, this is a lot. This does end on a cliffhanger, and the book Keeping 13 continues this duet. Each of the two books following, you know, follows a different couple. I wasn't too interested in reading about the books about her brother. I don't know, because I feel like, I mean, we just read about that, and plus it kind of goes back in time and we already know who he ends up with, so wasn't really too interested in continuing on with her brother's books. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one a lot. It made me cry, it made me mad, like all the things. So many emotions. Bunny by Mona Awad. This book tabbed so many tabs. I actually started this book originally November 8th, 2021. I DNF'd or about 195 pages into it. So I did have like a green colored highlighter during my first read of this. It was really interesting to see, because I did start annotating this, how different my mindset was when reading this the first time compared to when I read it this year. I was getting very different messages from this book the second time around than I did the first time, which was awesome, because that's one of the things that I really love about reading and books is, you know, there are messages, but a reader can interpret it through like their own life experiences. Obviously, since 2021, a lot has happened personally, professionally, all of the above, and got very different stuff out of it than if I had read it back then and continued on. I mean, I do wish I had finished it, because I really would have liked to see how I interpreted the ending to this, because I do think I had a very different view of how this book ended than a lot of people that I tried to look up different, you know, things about this book. I do feel like this ended differently than what other people saw it as. This is about a girl who goes to this very prestigious school, very small classes, PhD, English, literature, and leans to very weird things. And I know that a lot of people don't really describe this book, because if you go into it knowing too much, I do think it kind of spoils it for you. Just know you have to have a very open mind. If you're looking for kind of a dark academia horror vibe, this is that for sure. Another adult drama romance-ish, I guess you could call it a romance, that I picked up was Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. This book, wild ride. Gossip Girl set in London is exactly how people describe it, and that's what I got out of it. I had quite the crazy time. This just is like Chuck and Blair coded, hot mess, super just messy. I was not really rooting for these two people to be together, because they really shouldn't be, but technically there's no one else for them but each other. And I was just so frustrated, but it's like you don't want them to be together, but you do and you don't, and then the ending, oh my gosh, wild ride. I obviously read this one physically. I do think I have a reading vlog of this one somewhere from this year. I ended up picking up Daisy Hates, which is about another couple, and this book has subtitles. Not subtitles, my god. Footnotes. I do not do footnotes while reading. I hate it. I hate it. Listening to it is much better, and I just never really continued on with this one. I do want to. I have all of the books. I need to continue on, and I really did enjoy it, and I feel like this one would be more up my alley, because Daisy Hates is like a mob girl, mob princess as it were. But yeah, Magnolia Parks, Socialite. This definitely has the same group of friends too, well, group adjacent maybe, but yeah, I'm really excited to try this one out. The Fabric of Our Souls is a book that I loved so dearly. I love like a dark romance plot, but this was just so much more than that. It deals with mental illness, it deals with a bunch of different things, because our main character, Wynn, at the beginning of the story tries to unalive herself. She wakes up in the hospital. Obviously she did not succeed, ends up getting sent to this like live-in facility, because this, I don't believe, is her first attempt, and her brother doesn't really know what to do. The male main character, Liam, is also a patient there. You can see where this can kind of get a little messy when you have two people who are working on themselves find a connection. One thing that was a little bit hard to believe, but I don't know, I'm maybe not. The place where they stay is a little bit different, because they let male and female patients room together. I don't know. It's definitely like a pretty tough read, and I think I saw this being sold now at Target, which I was really surprised by. But yeah, I loved it. There were so many things that I could connect to and see, and then there's this underlying mystery that's going on, so it's not just like a romance. There's more to it. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. The Sinner by Chantal Tessier. So this was the first book that I picked up in this series that she has, and let me tell you, this was a wild ride, a dark ride, one that has the secret society within a college campus, and it's not always my favorite as of late, but this book did it. I think I started the first one, which is The Ritual, and didn't continue on because of that fact, but this one, like, wild. There's a lot of like BDSM type material that's in this one. Like, you have a girl main character who's gone through so much and basically molded her to the person that she is, and the likes and dislikes that she has in the bedroom. So yeah, it was definitely a wild one, and I really enjoyed chapters in here. They were just gorgeous. Read this one out of order. I do have another one that I do want to pick up that is in the same world but a different group of guys, I guess, but it's all connected. They're all connected. But yeah, this one was wild. God of Malice by Rena Kent. This is the first book in the Legacy of Gods. This world was way bigger than I ever thought it was, because this is like following the kids of multiple book series are interconnected and they come together, and now this is the first book in the series. I know that it became traditionally published, but if you have the indie book or indie edition, it starts off with a crazy bang. Literally, this girl is at the edge of a cliff. She had just lost her best friend, and this guy comes up and is like about to push her off, and something happens. Wild. I think I was like that the first time that I picked it up. I thoroughly annotated this book, and if you liked masked men, if you like secret society, if you like mob families and all different kinds of stuff, this has it. And yeah, really interesting. I really liked this one a lot. Our main character basically attracts a psychopath. We love a good psychopath. Moving into fantasy, I am so excited to talk about these next couple books. So let me see which one I want to talk about first. Let's do The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. Another one, oh my gosh. I started reading this in the middle of summer at a lake house, and let me tell you, that did not stop me from feeling all of the vibes. This is a dual point of view story. You don't know what timeline they're in, but they're obviously not the same one, and you don't know really what's going on. Our guy main character has lived his whole life in this library, and there's like these monsters that live in the library that they have to stay away from. Girl main character, she ends up getting captured. She's a slave. She's on the way to the city. She somehow finagles her way in to become a librarian, and so obviously this centers heavily around books. A library, a magical library, different rooms that can only open with different certain people and races, and it's just so good. I love the world. It's not too expansive, but it's just right in that way. There was a city that surrounded this library, but this library had so much history and so much knowledge that spans so many different races and time, and it's just like mysteries were lost to each group of people because of that, and it's just so good. And this ended on such a cliffhanger. I cannot wait to read the second book, which I already own and did start. The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong is a standalone fantasy, I was gonna say fantasy romance. No, it's a standalone fantasy. This is an independent book, which took me a while to pick up. I'm not really sure why, and I can kick myself for how long it took me to pick this book up. This follows two points of view. It is a son and a mother, and the mother used to be like this fighter, and she ends up marrying into this family because of, you know, family duty and all that stuff, where she ends up becoming a housewife. and all of the things that she once did, she has to put on the back burner for her family. She's, you know, this housewife and head of the household kind of thing where she takes care of everything household wise, based in Japanese kind of culture. I love this. So I didn't start really tabbing and annotating until the very end, which I'm so mad because I wish I had done it while reading. Needless to say, this book wrecked me. Like halfway through this book, I was a crying mess. Even wrote a whole Goodreads review on this novel because it just like, whoa, affected me so much. Like I almost got a book hangover because of this one right here. There's so much that happens in this book, but it's only a standalone, so it's not like you have to read a 10 book series. Still, it wrecks you. And I do have her second book up on my shelves, which is traditionally published. Next we have the Shepherd King Duology by Rachel Gillig. I loved Two Twisted Crowns, which is the second book, much more than the first one. Not to say I didn't enjoy it, because I did tab it and annotate the first book, but the second book is much more heavily annotated. The first book has one point of view, Elspeth, who is our main character. She has basically like this nightmare living in her head. That's what she calls it, nightmare. Like this monster, basically. In this world, it is dark, it is very dreary. The world is getting taken over by, I'm gonna call it like the smoke or something, I can't remember. The magic system is very unique in the fact that it's like playing cards, and there's only so many in the deck that if someone who does not have magic possesses one of those cards, they do have magic. If you do have magic in this world, it's not good. First book ends on a cliffhanger. Second book, multi-point of view. There's some romance happening. I really enjoyed it. I really did. I thought where the story went was really interesting. And yeah, I mean, the world wasn't that big and it was a bit kind of cliched in a way, but I enjoyed it and definitely will want to check out anything else that this author writes, because, you know, I did end up having a good fun time in this darker world. The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent is very similar to Powerless in its kind of storyline and the tropes that it uses, except this is about vampires. Our main character, rather than just being powerless, she's actually a human living in a vampire world. In this world, there are two different sects of vampires. One has like kind of like these bat wings, and the other one have like feathers. And I forgot however many years, is it every year? I don't know. But there is this trial and games that goes on, and our main character, she's actually the adopted daughter of the king of the bat-winged vampires that are in power at this time. So she's human. She doesn't have the same powers as the other vampires, so she has to be ruthless and fight a different way than these guys do. Rather than just relying on brute strength and their powers, she has to be a lot more savvy, and in the way it's very similar to Powerless, except this one, both are very dark-ish, you know, but this one definitely has a little bit more on the line, I would say. I did pick this one up when we had lost power in a storm, so it was like, well, I don't have anything else to do, so let me read. And I read this pretty quickly, I think about 2 days. I do have the second one. I do want to pick it up. I personally feel like I saved the best for last, and we have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I loved this one as well. As you can see, I loved it so much I bought the special edition. I think this one's fairy loot, if I'm not mistaken, but I did end up purchasing this gorgeous edition of The Spell Shop. This is one of those cozy fantasies that I ended up picking up because I wanted to give cozy fantasy a try, and that I did. I loved this book so much. It had just the amount of coziness, a plant that talks and can act, you know, have free will and all this stuff, and she was once a librarian and something was happening and she had to escape, and she was already planning to make an escape, I believe, just in case. So she had packed up some of these books. Her and her plant got in the boat and whisked away, and she went back to the home island where she was from. This has some little flying cats that are in the story. They don't play a big role as I thought they were going to, but it was still super cute. This is just so sweet because she is a librarian out in the middle of nowhere, and she has this very like mindset where she's like, I don't need any help, I'm gonna, you know, take care of everything myself. Needless to say, she needs the help of others in this town, and it's so cute. I loved it so much. I definitely want to do a reread and look back through all of my, you know, annotations and just continuing on, because this was just such a special book to me and I really enjoyed it. The found family aspect and just so good, so good. We have Long Live Evil by Sarah Reese Brennan, and I read this book so quickly. I didn't tab it or do any annotations, but I went back and started doing that, which now I want to go back and reread. And this is the special edition. This one is Fairy Loot. I think this was not Fairy Loot. This was Fairy Loot, and I loved this book so much. This book is not a new concept, but I feel like I haven't seen it too much in Western storytelling. I literally just watched an Asian drama, or C-drama rather, that's called like Love and Fantasy or something like that, where the main character ends up stumbling into like a game world that she loves. This turns out to be the book series that she loves, and she ends up not becoming the, you know, fair maiden. She ends up becoming the evil stepmother, honestly can't remember, but basically she becomes the evil woman character. And it's kind of funny because it takes things that you see as like an evil trait, big bosoms and things like that, and like pokes fun of it, and I just had such a good time. It was just like amazing. This definitely had some high stakes. There's a trial period where she's trying to get her bearings on how to navigate this world, how to stay alive, because ultimately that's the goal, is to keep her character alive, making alliances. Needless to say, I had the best time reading this book. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. If you stayed to the end of this video, what were some of your favorite books that you read this year? Did you read any of these? Did you like them? Did you hate them? I would love to know and chat about it in the comments down below. And I hope you have a wonderful day and happy reading. Bye.